Good. All right. In our last lesson, we left off on number 3, the last row with Danny having uh, 8 average points per game. Last month, this month, we're not sure, but we know that it was a percent increase of 300%. So let's take a quick run through on that one. I'm going to erase this stuff over here because we don't need it because, well, it's in the last video if you really needed it. Okay, so last month, 8, right? And then she had a 300% increase. So we had what, 100% of 8, right? Plus 300% of 8. And that's going to equal our new, which would be, let's see, 300, that would be 400% of 8. And of course, different ways to look at that. Well, 100% of 8 would be 8. 300%, well, if we move the decimal 2 places to the left, that would be 3. 3 times 8 would be 24. So 8 plus 24, that's going to equal 32, which, if we look at the other one here, 400% of 8, that would be, move the decimal back, that would be 4 times 8, because remember, of means multiply. 4 multiplied by 8 would be 32. So she had 32 points this month. All right. Now, let's move on to number 4 now, because we'll be talking about finding percent decrease. Percent decrease. Now, this table of of values that we can use to plug in here, they're nice to have, at least as a way to check to see if our answer is at least somewhere near what it should be. Um, but remember, we're looking at percent decrease. Okay, and if in this one we're taking the original, which was 12.6 in this first one, the new amount is 4.2, and we're looking for the percent decrease. Now, if we look at the same method that we used last time, instead of adding the percent increase, we could subtract the percent, right? Instead of adding the percent, we would subtract the percent. And so if we look at this one, we know that the original amount was 12.6. So that would be 100% of 12.6. Now we know it's a percent decrease, so we are going to subtract, but we don't know the percent, right? So we're looking for whatever this percent is of 12.6, and that's going to equal 4.2, right? So this is very interesting. Now, there is a really slick and easy way to do this, but I don't want to get to that point yet. We're going to earn it, right? So 100% of 12.6 is, of course, 12.6. Now, what is x multiplied by 12.6? X times 12.6? Well, that's, of course, 12.6x. And that's going to equal our new amount, which is 4.2. Which is, whatever the 100 minus x is. So let's keep working through this equation, right? 12.6 minus, sorry about that, minus 12.6x equals 4.2. Well, we're trying to find out what x is. So the first thing we're going to do is subtract our constant here, minus 12.6. And those cancel each other out. And I get negative 12.6x equaling, let's see, 4.2 minus 12.6. 4.2 minus 12.6. Negative 8.4. All right. Now, to find out what x is, I'm going to divide both sides by negative 12.6. Those two cancel each other out, and x is whatever negative 8.4 divided by negative 12.6, which of course will be positive, remember, because a negative divided by a negative is positive. And that gives me 0.66, and that's repeating. Now, that's not a percent, is it? But remember, we can take a decimal and turn it into a percent by multiplying by 100. That's how we have to convert a decimal to a percent. So we multiply that times 100. Why won't my pen write? There we go. And of course, that means we move the decimal over 2 places to the right, which would be 66. Point, depending on how many places you want to go, we could, 66.67%. Another way to write that would be 66 2/3%. Which, look at there. Da-da-da. Okay. All right. So again, working through these same problems here, you know what, because I know that this will be on video, I can erase what I've just done. Unless, of course, you need me to keep it up there, but I'll bet you don't. You've probably already written all of this down. So I'll just start and work my way down. So again, we take the original amount. Oh, that's a really thick line. Take the original amount, which was 8. So 100% of 8, right? Minus, because it's a decrease, 25% of 8. And that will equal, let's see, 100% of 8 is 8. 25% of 8, that's the same thing as 1/4. That would be 2. And so 8 minus 2 should be 6. But if we looked at it the other way, 100 minus 25% would be 75% of 8. And if we multiply 75%, which would of course be 0.75 times 8, we would get 6. Either way. It all depends on, what type of, how much work you want to put into that. I like both ways. It's nice to know both ways. Now this last one, oh, look at that. And there's 6 as one of our options. Bum, bum, bum. Now this last one, our original amount, we don't know. Okay. But we know the new amount and we know the percent decrease. So we can work through this one. 100% of x, because that's the unknown, minus, we know how much was subtracted, minus 75% of x equals, well, it'll equal 2. So 100% of x, that would be 1 times x, which is x. 75% of x, well, then we multiply 75%, which as a decimal would be 0.75 times x, which would be 0.75x. And that's going to equal our new amount, which was 2. Now, what is x minus 0.75x? Well, that had better be negative, sorry, not negative. It would be 0.25x equaling 2. Okay, because that would be 1 minus 0.75. And that would be 0.25. Now divide both sides by 0.25 or 25 hundredths. and x. How many times does 0.25 go into 2? 8 times. And 8. And that seems to make sense. If you have 8 and you have a 75% decrease, you're taking 1/4 off 3 different times. So it'd be minus 2, minus 2, minus 2. You're subtracting 6, which would give you 2. All right. Well, that makes perfect sense then. Please remember, anytime you have a question, just type a question mark into the chat, and I will be happy to stop whatever it is I'm doing. All right. Well, let's take a look at number 5. Haley has a big project due. On the project, she can earn a total score of 110% if she does the extra credit. If she gets a score of 100, she will have earned 400 out of 400 points. We're going to draw a tape diagram or percent bar showing how many points she must earn to get varying percent scores. Okay, well, let's draw our tape diagram here. And so remember, down here we've got 0% would be 0 points. And up here, 100% would be the 400 points, right? Now, remember all those cool benchmarks, right? We know benchmark percents. So, for example, if we know what 100% is, we can find 50% because that's going to be half. And half of 400 is 200. Beautiful. Now, if we know 50%, we can certainly find 25%. Because it's going to be half of 50. So that's going to be half of 50% would be 100 because half of 200 is 100. Now, from that, of course, we can certainly find 75% because we can add 25% and 50% to get 75%. So 100 plus 200 gives us 300. So now we've got all these cool benchmarks, but there's even a couple more. How about let's find 10%? I'll do that one in a different color because I don't want to get it mixed up. So 10% of 400. Well, 100 divided by 10 is 10. 400 divided by 10 means you're just going to move the decimal one place to the left. So 10% is going to be 40. Now, if we know 10%, we can certainly find 1%. 1%. Because all we have to do with 1% is to move the decimal place one more to the left. And so 1 more percent or 1 more decimal point to the left would be 4. So we have all of these. If we know all of these, we can find any number, we can find any percent of anything we want in there. So we know that 1% is 4, 10% is 40, 25% is 100, 50% is 200, 75% is 300, and 100% is 400. Now, because we know what 10 and 1 are, we can add any combination of those to any one of these other ones to find out, let's say, how much would 86%? Well, 86% would be 75 plus 10 plus 1, right? So that would be 300 plus 40 plus 4, 344. So 344 would be 86% because we can add all of those. That's the really cool part about this. If you can find those benchmark percents, you can find any one of those. But now remember, if she's going to earn a total score of 110%, how many points will that be? 110%. So that's the big question here. How much is 110%? Hmm. And I'll bet you can find that out. All right. I am out of time. We're gonna pull the plug on this one. I'm gonna give the assignment later on today, and it'll be due in a couple of days. So be looking for that in Teams. Have a great rest of the day, guys. Don't forget to be awesome.